Welcome back to the Sweat Elite podcast, another episode of Training Talk with Luke and Matt. Luke is just under 8 weeks until he races the Chicago Marathon. He's in awesome shape. I've just gotten back into training after 4.5 months off. I'm in my third week back. We'll go over the basics of how we've been doing in training before we answer some questions that have come through my Instagram all about marathon training. But Luke, you mentioned on your last log of last week, probably your biggest week ever, not literally in volume, but not far away, but in quality work on top of how high the volume is. It sounds like you're feeling good. How's everything going?
Yeah, really good, man. Really good. That's yeah, it's exactly that. I didn't realize I put that much detail into the this travel, but no, it's exactly that. Like I think it was what was it, a 98-mile week. I think my biggest week ever is pretty close, like 106, 107 miles. But I just mean biggest in terms of it is a big week volume wise, but I had one, two, three, like four really big quality sessions too.
Mm.
That all went really well. And to do it in the heat in the summer and to be so far into the double T training and just all that, it was just a really big week and just, yeah, it was just really good and felt really good about it on the Sunday, just kind of reflecting on it, I
Yeah,
guess.
awesome. And that was on the 20-mile run that you did on Sunday, 3 by 3 miles. I think it's awesome. We were talking via voice notes yesterday, and I was saying that I think one big difference that I've noticed in your training this summer as opposed to last summer is it seems like you've dialed the pace back a little bit on some of the long on a lot of the long runs and running more to effort as opposed to really chasing a pace. Would you say that's accurate? And how else do you
Yeah.
think? Because this time last year, if you remember, you were sort of really struggling in the heat. And of course, that's completely fair enough given how hot it is in Houston over this time of year. But it seems like you're handling it a lot better this year. So keen to hear more about
Lot,
that.
yeah, a lot better. A lot of it goes back to what we talked about last week, talking about how you had an athlete dealing with heat stroke and the kind of tips and tricks I gave there for sure in terms of beating the sun and whatever else. But to your point, yeah, it's definitely true. Like I'm so much more dialed in to effort than I was last year. And I think that's from the Osaka build, which is
Mm.
in cold weather, you know. Um, but obviously that went the other way, right? It was like I just wanted to break 225, but oftentimes, which is 531 per mile pace, but oftentimes those workouts turned out to be like 520 something per mile pace. But it felt like marathon effort, and I wasn't like ever freaking out the opposite way back then, going like, "Oh, it's too fast, it's too fast." Like I know what marathon pace feels like, so it's the same way now. I think that taking that mindset from the Osaka build is really helping me now to be like, okay, yeah, the pace says 537 or 540 per mile pace. Um, yeah, obviously that's not the true pace. You know that.
Mm.
But this feels like marathon pace, so don't be stupid and just like dial in because do you want to click off a bunch of 530s and 540s and feel pretty good about it? Or do you want to like click off the first set and a half at 520 pace and then the second half of the workout you're just dying in bits and struggling to run 550s, and you just know that from being in the heat so often that you pick your poison. Your pace graph isn't gonna look sexy and whatever, but like who cares? You're putting in the work, and when, please God, the weather turns good for the Chicago Marathon or whatever fall marathon you're doing, it's gonna be worth it in the end, and you just have to have confidence in it.
Yeah, awesome. Now it's good to see you flying, man, because yeah, like I mentioned just before, and if you've been listening for over a year, you would remember that Luke was having a bit of a difficult time at this time last year, getting his training consistent in the heat, which is really hard. Like I found it very difficult in Chicago. That in Houston's much more difficult than Chicago consistently when it comes to heat and humidity. So yeah, I'm about to face all that in about 3 or 4 months when it starts to get really warm over this side of the world in Australia. I probably won't be doing a marathon build through the summer. I'm probably going to be doing Gold Coast Marathon is in my next marathon back, which is in July. So summer training will probably be more like 5K, 10K, which is much easier because you don't have to do those long 90-minute plus runs, which are the tricky ones in the heat. I feel like doing
That's what
speed work in the heat, yeah, that's what cooked you last year.
man, that's what cooks you the worst. It's like, and we can go, we will go through this in the training talk episode, but it was like a big kind of progressive tempo on the Tuesday, double threshold on the Thursday, but then a true marathon long run workout on the Saturday. And for the tempo, cruising, like
Yeah.
just crushing it, and 200s after and feeling great. And then the double T, like, yeah, it's hard, but it's like, it's okay, it's doable, it's threshold, and that's where it should be. But man, as soon as you're into those long runs with the long run marathon pace workouts in there, like I did 3x3 in a 20-mile run, 3x3 miles. Whoa, man. Towards the end of that workout, I was still feeling good enough to where I was really happy with it. But that last set of three, when I was getting into the last mile, certainly, I was like cooking, properly cooking. I was like, this is hard. Like this
Yeah.
is very hard. That was the hardest part of the entire week. The last mile of that 3x3 in that marathon workout. By far the
Just
hardest part of it.
you're starting at 5:33 a.m. and it's already 80 degrees Fahrenheit, 26 degrees Celsius, and 92% humidity. I don't want to know what it was towards the end of that workout. And for those in
Exactly.
kilometers, you probably know 3 miles is about pretty close to 5K, so 3 by 5K within a 32K run. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, it was tough. But then, I was talking to Chris, one of the lads at the end of the workout when we were doing a nice cool down together. And I was just like, man, I feel great right now. Like in the cool down. Feel just great. Absolutely great. My legs, my breathing, my energy just feel fantastic. And that's when you know you're in a good place, right? It's just like, of course it was hard. It's supposed to be hard, but it's like I have it dialed in now, you
Yeah.
know. So yeah, no, I'm pretty happy. The goal is to just keep doing this. Um, and for those, like I'll get into it in the training talk episode, but I'm kind of breaking it up. This is a totally different style of marathon prep that I'm doing. Usually I would do kind of the traditional, like big volume, easy run Monday, hard session Tuesday, kind of like what the BYU lads would do, like speed stuff for a marathoner. You might do some tempos, but you're kind of ripping certainly sub threshold for most of the workout. Easy miles Wednesday, Thursday, take Friday off, then a big juicy long run with marathon work in there, like the 3x3 miles or 2x6 miles or whatever it is, and then easy miles Sunday. That's the usual, right? Whereas now I'm doing like so much more work. It's
Mhm.
like easy miles Monday and then similar session on the Tuesday. I've been doing more tempos and then some speed stuff, but similar work on the Tuesday, sub threshold. Easy miles Wednesday and then double threshold Thursday. So Thursday has never been less than 20 miles total. It's usually been around 23 miles. And of that, the threshold work is usually around like 10, 11 miles on the day. Threshold in the morning, usually more tempo, bigger volume stuff like the 3x2 miles or whatever it might be, and then shorter volume thresholds like some 400s or 800s in the afternoon, evening. So that's already massive. Friday off, and then Saturday into the long run. So it's like adding that extra, the double threshold in there. Um, Man, I feel like it's been a game changer. Like it's like I feel
Yeah.
like I
Seems
feel
like it.
really,
Yeah.
yeah, I feel really good. Like it's weird. Like usually in the heat like this, even when I'm in shape, like when I was in shape for Indy, I didn't feel this good, you know, in terms of when it gets hard in the heat, I'm still able to like kind of just like nut up and just carry on anyway, but like nah, fuck it, just bury the next one anyway. Whereas
I've
in
really
the
noticed
past,
that.
yeah, whereas in the past, in the summer, even when like I wasn't like last summer was a complete write-off, but like in previous summers, like the indie summer when I was in really good shape, I would be like, I'd still like I ran a PB, but I had so many failed workouts because of the heat. I feel like I've had like none. And
Mm.
I'm even like overreaching in a lot of them. And it's I'm sure the double threshold is really working and helping. But do you know what else I thought about as well? I'm waffling, I'll stop after this.
No, go ahead.
Um and people are gonna laugh. Remember I told you I'm getting ready for the high rocks?
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm getting ready for the high rocks. And I've been doing these HIIT classes, uh, high intensity interval training with and it's got the ski erg and the run. Like a lot of it's high rocks focused, but it's still got weights in there. I'm still doing like a lot of like good weights for my legs and my body and core work. So it's good. Man, I don't know if it's just the double T or it's that stuff as well. Like I've been doing that for a good few weeks now, and I feel so good, like with
Wow.
that stuff in there. Really good.
Okay.
Because it's like it's so fast. And there's like a lot of reasons. It's so fast. So I feel like I'm getting my body going. My heart rate's going mad anyway. There's cardio in there, like the rower and the ski erg. Like obviously you can bluff it, but why would you do that? You're in a class, you're paying for a
Mm.
fucking class. So like when you get after it on those things, like you do be bollocks. Like they really get you going. And I feel like that little supplement, I don't know. I feel like that's really helping, honestly. The
Mm.
hit class stuff. Like, yeah.
Well, I've got a whole lot of questions for you, but I'll save it for the second episode, this the second half of this conversation. So those that haven't listened to this before, this is a split episode. The first roughly 40 minutes or so is on the free side, and then we have a supporters club called the Shareholders Club, which is $10 a month or $99 a year, and we dive into more detail of our training week. So Luke will dive into the details of the double threshold that he's doing, the long run. Of course, it's all on Strava, so go follow him over there if you want to see it on Strava. But he talks more about, or we talk more about the reasoning behind doing the training and how he felt throughout. I wanted to ask you more about the diet side of things, because I have a feeling that that might be playing a role, but we'll save that for the second half. Before we answer, sorry, questions that have come through, I've got 6 good questions that have come through. I've had about 60 good questions, but I'm going to save a whole lot for future weeks. I pulled 6 aside. I ran a 19-minute 5K last week, 2 minute and 20-second improvement from 2 weeks ago. So I've been back training for 3.5 weeks.
Which is,
Go ahead.
man, that's wild. If
Big jump.
someone, you know what I mean? Like if someone, imagine you're coaching someone, right? This is why I want you to have this mindset. And this is why I was talking to you about it the other week, about the difference between you and my friend that's a 3 hour marathoner. And he's running the same times now, but the difference it'll take to get you here. Do you know what I mean? So it's like, don't freak out. Because like imagine he ran a 21-minute 5K all out, and then 2 weeks later he beats his PB by 2 minutes. Do you know what I mean? Like it's not the same. Like what's going on with you? Like you just keep doing what you're doing, ticking those boxes, little workouts here and there, keep getting the miles in. Like you're gonna be in shape, like back to prime shape, like so fast. Like so fast. It's gonna be crazy.
Do you remember Tuomo from my wedding? Yeah.
Of course.
He finished it.
Absolutely.
Yeah. He sent me a message after the park run. He was predicting that I'll be back in my best shape in about 3 months. I don't know about that. I think it'll take more like 5 or 6 months, but we'll see. But yeah, that course was actually slightly harder as well. I did 2 different park runs. And the
Yeah.
second one was but then again, it was also probably slightly short because my watch was 4.93K. So it was probably 19, 15 or something like that. But yeah, 2 minutes in 2 weeks. And for those completely unfamiliar tuning in for the first time or missed the last 2 episodes, I had 4.5 months off. You can go and listen to the previous episodes as to why that is. Very long story, which I'll save you in this episode. But I had 4.5 months where I was basically stationary, doing absolutely no training and no walking, um, and came out after 10 days and ran a 21:20 5K, which was pretty close to all out and wasn't far off it. And yeah, 2 weeks later, 19 flat. So yeah, I'll do another one in a couple of weeks. Hopefully I can go sub 18 and then I'll just keep chipping away at it. And yeah, my sort of vision right now is to try and get back into sub 15-minute 5K shape before I even think about anything longer than that. I think 5K shape is a really
But
good
like
place to focus before you look at anything above 5K. Yeah.
I like that. I think that's really, really smart. Honestly, it is. So you're not like, and it gives you like a focus as well, right?
Mm.
You're not like all over the place. It's like, oh, I'm going to do some 5K shit over here, and then but then I'm going to do a big marathon specific long run here. It's like, um, that's really smart. I like. What made you do that?
Oh, look, I do that to everyone. I pretty much do that to everyone that I coach. If you want to do a marathon and you're not within 12 weeks of the marathon, you,
Yeah,
I think most people, it depends a little bit on the person and their background and where they're coming from and what they've just raced. But across the board, on average, people should always be focusing on 5K fitness. And 5K and 10K fitness are very similar. But I think 5K fitness is a really good thing to focus on. And, if you get really good at 5K, you'll naturally run a pretty good 10K, provided that you've done some decent long runs. But yeah, that's just something that I've coached for a very long time. I've done myself when I'm far away from a marathon, of which I have no marathon planned. And I mentioned before that Gold Coast is probably my next one. That's in 10 and a half months. It's possible I might run one beforehand. The only thing I'm concerned about, which I have to get over, is doing a marathon block in the in the summer, because there is Ballarat Marathon in April here, which is possible as well. But yeah, that's basically the reason why. Just observing professional runners and observing, doing a whole lot of research. And I think if you can be in really good 5K shape 12 weeks out from a marathon and you switch over to that marathon specific work, tends to work almost every single time, provided there's no hiccups. So yeah, I'll
yeah,
keep chipping away. Yeah, but I was
I
stoked.
like it. No, that's awesome. That's good. How did you like? Did you have in your mind this is the goal, or did you just feel it out, or like what was going through your mind?
Yeah, good question. Great question. I spoke to a few people. My dad was curious to know what I'd run, and I thought I'd probably run somewhere around between 19 and 19:30. But when I warmed up, I ran to the park run. I thought to myself, I'm going to run this purely to effort. I'm just going to run, stand on the start line. I tell people to do this all the time, who I coach as well. If you're not 100% sure how you're going to run, there's really nothing wrong. And this works very well most of the time. If you stand on the start line and you say to yourself, I'm going to distribute my effort as best I can over this distance and just let nature take its course, it often works out very well. And that's basically what I did. I stood on the start line and just went, I'm just going to, it's 5K. I'm going to distribute my effort as best I can over this distance. I went out a little bit too hard, a little bit too fast, but I adjusted pretty quickly. And yeah, pretty much held right around 350 per K. So I think it was 351 in the end, which is about 612, 615, something like that per mile. Yeah, so I didn't really have a strict goal. I just sort of felt it out and worked out well. Yeah,
I like it.
yeah. I think I'll do one every 2 weeks for a while. It's probably best if I stick to the same course because the park runs can be quite different. The one I did on the
Yeah.
weekend actually had a lot of trail, a lot of sandy trail, so it wasn't the fastest. But yeah, well, if you want to hear more about our weeks in full detail, you can join us over at the Shareholders Club. As I mentioned, I didn't say the link before. It's in the show notes. It's sweatelite.co/shareholders. A huge thank you to, we had a rush of people join up last week off the back of our episode. We had a whole lot. So thank you to everyone that signed up. You can join us over there to access the second podcast that we do after this. It's about 40 minutes long and we dive into our training weeks in detail. And of course, Luke's training is going to be really interesting, especially over these next 6 to 8 weeks as he heads into Chicago and aims for a personal best of sub 224.51. So, and I'll be talking mostly about building up to hopefully get from 21, 25K down to sub 15 over maybe a 4 or 5 month period. So, yeah, we'll see. But I thought I would get some of these questions. I put up an Instagram story yesterday asking if anyone wanted to ask some questions to us on the podcast about anything to do with training. First one from Nathan Iliak. He asked how often to include faster than threshold pace in marathon specific phase. What do you think?
Yeah, that's funny. You asked me that when I feel like I already talked about it
Yeah,
a little before, right? About my block. Um, I think it's okay to do it literally once a week.
yeah.
Every-
That's probably pretty much normal, I think.
Yeah, I don't. Yeah, I think it's smart to do it as well. Like, look at the BYU guys. That's their model. They do faster than threshold once a week, and then they do marathon pace stuff for the rest. And they don't really do. They do some what you would call, but that's still faster than threshold. Like, I guess faster than threshold could be a wide variety of things, because threshold's here and there's so much underneath it
Yeah.
faster than threshold, you know? So yeah, and they throw in so much. They throw in like these crazy fast 800 repeats sometimes. The BYU lads and take like
Long
5 minutes
rests.
full recovery, yeah, and
Mm,
then just go rip it again. And look, if it's working for those lads, then it's working. Like those lads are, um, not, and I mean this with all respect, they're not like Kenyan, Ethiopian freaks living in the mountain. They're just like they're regular lads.
mm,
And of course, like they've been up at BYU, up at elevation for their college careers and all that stuff. Yeah, that they might have that going for them, but they're not like crazy athletes. Of course they are very athletic and they're very durable lads. Of course, I'm not saying that, but they're also not like the freak of all freaks. The training is really what's gotten them to the next level. Um, especially Connor and Clinton Young. And so, yeah, they do it once a week. So I'd say doing it at least once a week. I don't think you need it more than once a week, though,
mm,
either. For the opposite, if the person was like, well, how often? Uh, I think once a week is the sweet spot. Do it like on a Tuesday, and then you do your marathon stuff on the long run on the weekend. Or, do your faster than threshold on the Tuesday, do your marathon pace stuff on the Thursday and Friday, and then just do time on feet long run
mm.
on the weekend. Break it up that way. But
Yep.
yeah, I think it works. Keep the fast twitch fibers, all that good stuff. Making marathon pace only feel easier if you're burning your legs every now and again. Don't
Mm.
see why not.
Yeah,
What do
we
you think?
haven't really touched. Yeah, no, you're on the money. I think that's a good answer. We haven't really touched on or decided if we're including things like strides and hill sprints though, because a lot of the athletes that I'm working with, I include hill sprints in the week on top of a workout that's faster than threshold. So that would be twice. But then again, are we including that? That's very, very short efforts. You're doing strides many times a week, but that's not really a full workout. So yeah, if you're talking about long actual aerobic sessions, I think there's probably not much place to do it more than once a week, faster than anaerobic threshold that is, or sort of half marathon effort. But if you are including strides and hill sprints, that's obviously much faster than threshold, especially sprints. And I think they can be really good to add into the program. I'm having a lot of athletes improve, pretty significantly by incorporating the hill sprints. That's what I included last year, and which I think was a big factor in me moving the needle forward in the marathon. And they're enjoying it too. They're noticing that those slower paces are marathon pace and slower are starting to feel a little bit more efficient after they do say 5 to 10 sessions of hill sprints. I know that you haven't add them into your training, but you are doing a whole lot of strides after easy runs. So yeah, go on. You
Tomorrow I
back?
am.
Oh, you
I'm
back?
back. I'm back. Yeah, I told you, you convinced me. I was like, you're right. I feel like I'm leaving money on the table.
Yep. Nice.
Yeah.
So you're adding them in on a Tuesday. Are you doing them after a workout, or how are you incorporating them?
Yeah, I'm gonna do them after the workout.
Okay.
I'm gonna do like a tempo, uh, take a good recovery, finish the tempo, do the water dump, uh, jog very slowly over to the hill, full recovery, and then just rip it.
Mhm. Nice. Glad that I convinced you to get back into it, because I think that worked really well for you leading into
Oh, I
Osaka.
think so.
Yeah.
Yeah, I just
Yeah.
forgot because I wasn't doing them during the 5K build, you know,
Yep.
um, which I regret actually, I thought like it's a 5K, it's a track 5K, just do everything on the track, you'll be fine. And I tell you, I do regret that.
Mm,
And so I forgot about them because of that.
mm.
But they're back, baby.
They're back. Sam Getting asks, running Houston and Boston, the best way to navigate races that are this close. So Houston's on January the 11th and Boston's on April the 20th. So it's a little over 3 months in between two, which is quite a lot. What's your best
Yeah,
answer,
that's,
Luke?
that's not close to me.
Yeah.
um,
Close to us is
but,
like 3 weeks.
yeah. But no, if the best way to do that, do you know what? Actually, I feel like they're almost too far apart. I feel like if they were, no, it's for real. And what I mean by that is I'll explain in the answer. If they were closer, it'd almost be better because it's kind of like what I did with Osaka and Boston,
Mm,
because I just took that fitness into the next build and just kind of tweaked some things with the hills. And I think that's what you should do. to the person that asked that question. Get ready, gear up, go, you know, all out, hell to leather for the Houston Marathon, and then take time off. Have your recovery, whatever coach prescribes, time off, like do it. You will not lose fitness in that time off,
Mm,
full week off, whatever it is. And then do your usual for the next week. Build back into it, do a check-in, easy runs, see how the legs are feeling. But then after that, just go right back into it. As soon as you do your full whatever that is, it could be a week. It's probably a week for me. It could be 2 weeks for someone else. Whatever that time is, you know what it is. Your coach knows what it is. Um, but then once your body's like reset and you feel good, you don't have the DOMs anymore. Yeah, just get after it again. And if you are like me, where you want like really high mileage, you want to tick a lot of boxes, you've done that already for Houston. So don't worry so much about that part of it for Boston. You're you're already really fit. So just concentrate on the things that we're missing. So Houston's flat, so you're probably not going to be going out burying a lot of hilly long runs, whereas Boston you will be. And so just focus on those things. And those changes, flat marathon to a hilly marathon, those changes will take care of everything else. Don't worry. Like if you're like an 80 mile per week guy and this week you've worked it out, you're only going to get 70, don't freak out. Just hit what you need to hit. You need to hit your hill sprints on the Tuesday, or you need to go out like me, find a hilly place because you don't live in a hilly place. Go out to your Belleville, whatever that is, and do your long run there and hit and make your adjustments there. And then you just worry about the things that are new and different. Everything
mm,
else, you're gonna be you're gonna be in prime shape. So just get that shape and just carry it over,
mm.
and uh, and you'll be fine.
I definitely agree with you when you said that it's almost too long. I think the perfect duration between doing two marathons in a quote unquote short period of time is about 8 weeks, because then you can have one sort of easy week and then you haven't lost anything. And you're essentially then doing a 6 week block of just maintaining fitness or trying to build a little bit more. But this is closer to, I think this is 14 weeks between Houston and Boston. So you can really afford, Sam, if you're listening, to have 10 days pretty much completely off, where you're maybe jogging, a couple of times in that period. I would be walking at the minimum for sure. That's just good for recovery. And then getting straight back into it. Like you said, a couple of weeks of just building back in and finding your feet and then back into a specific block. And you already touched on this. Houston's a dead flat course. Boston's a very hilly course. So you want to be including long runs with plenty of hills in that second block. But yeah, you have nothing to worry about in terms of navigating this. I think there's plenty of time. And I've talked about this plenty of times too, but recovery after a marathon is something that's difficult to plan because you don't know exactly how you're going to execute the race. If the weather's good, you fuel well, you carb up well beforehand, you're able to get the protein and carbs and creatine and the other things in afterwards, and you recover very well, it can be 10 days and you're back feeling 100%. But if it's a case where you weren't able to fuel well, it's very hot, you might not hit the race, perfectly, or it might not go to plan, you might blow up. It might take a little bit longer to recover from. But either way, I think there's plenty of time. On to the next one. So Smurfles asks, how would you structure a week for someone looking to improve over 5 and 10K running 5 times a week?
Oh, 5 times a week.
Mm,
What I would do, so 5 or 10K. So yeah, kind of similar. Your long one is more important for the 10K, right? So I
mm,
guess it is different, especially if it's only 5 days a week. So I'd probably like easy run Monday, um, hard like 5K specific work on the Tuesday, really get after it. Then probably take the Wednesday off, right? And then Thursday, trying to think now, like
I think I think you're on the right track. I
yeah,
think you were thinking about Monday, Tuesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, with Thursday being threshold and Saturday being long run, and easy runs being Monday and Friday. Yep. So rest days being
you
Wednesday and Sunday.
you say all that again, but in the better flow for the person that asked the question.
Yeah, sure. So really, you can put the recovery days and you can sort of structure this however you like. But I think the way that most people do it, if they're very flexible, is to do Monday easy, Tuesday intervals at 5K, 10K, or even a little bit faster pace than 5K, 3K, or even down to mile pace. Wednesday off, Thursday threshold, you're running right around that half marathon effort, half marathon pace, maybe dipping down to 10K effort, 10K pace at the end. So it's Thursday, Friday, easy run again, Saturday, long run. And if you're trying to tick the box of doing 5 and 10K, Sunday off, so recovery days, Wednesday, Sunday. And if you're trying to tick the box of being good for over 5 and 10K, you're going to want to make that long run at least 90 minutes, up to probably an hour 40, hour 45 in duration. What do you think?
I love that. Yeah, that's where I was going with it. Yeah, but I was trying to like get the days in my head, and I was like, where do I put this off day? But no, that would be perfect. That's what I would do if I had 5 days to. I only had 5 days to run during the week, getting ready
Mm.
for a 5K or 10K. Yeah,
Yeah.
that's spot on.
I think that Tuesday workout too, which is sort of a specific day in terms of running at the pace, I would alternate one week. I've been doing this with people I coach as well. I would alternate one week being quite a lot faster than 5K pace, so mile 3K
Yeah,
pace,
yeah,
and then every other week 5K, 10K pace. So for example, you might do 8 400s or 10 300s or 4 800s at, or 5 800s probably is probably better at 3K pace, or working down to mile pace if you're doing 400s and 300s. And then every other week, you're back at doing 1K repeats, 1200s, maybe more 800s, 8 800s or 10 800s, a little bit slower with shorter rest. Anyway, there's so many ways you can slice this, but I would be alternating that one very fast workout, much faster than 5K, 10K, and then every other week, 5K, 10K pace stuff.
nailed it. Love it.
Can't give away too much more. That's what coaching's for.
Yeah.
Sebastian Aragon asks, best way to fit strength workouts into weekly training structure. You've had plenty of experience in this realm, Luke. How have you been doing that? Because you have since I've known you, you've done plenty of strength work and you've basically remained injury free. So you're probably a good person to ask.
Yeah, yeah. I think that's easy. That's just the old adage: keep the easy days easy and the hard days hard when
Mm,
you can, for sure. I think that's the best way to do it. So I'll do those hit classes on the Tuesday when I'll do my tempo, and then I'll do a class or weights, whatever. Same with the Thursday and same with the Saturday. And that way you have time off as well between, you
mm,
know? So you do your weights on the Tuesday and then no weights on the Wednesday. You do your weights on the Thursday, no weights on the Friday. Do your weights on the Saturday, no weights again until following Tuesday. And I do think a lot of runners like the 2 day a week. If I was a coach, I would build them up to, if they're not used to it, but eventually the goal would be 3 days a week. I think 3 days a week really should be the minimum for runners, honestly. I don't
minimum.
think 2 days is, yeah, I really do. I really don't think 2 days is enough. Like I know there's a lot of coaches out there that would disagree. And that's fine. But personally, I don't think 2 days does enough. Because I think 2 days will do enough to help keep you kind of injury free. But you want to build some strength there too. You know, you're not doing it just to stay injury free. Like that's a big part of it for sure. And it helps and it works. But you want to build strength. You know, you don't want to go in there and just fanny around and just be like, same weights, same this, same that. Like the goal would be to improve in the weight room while you're improving on the track or the road. You know, like when you started, you were doing your split squats with 20-pound dumbbells in each hand, but towards the end of the block, you ramped it up to 40 pounds, you
Mm.
know? But that should be a goal too, of course, safely, smartly, making sure you're doing the correct build up in weight and everything else, all those things considered. Um, but I do definitely think that should be the goal, to improve there too, because stronger is better. Like it just is.
Mm. Are you doing 3 sessions in the gym every week at the moment? Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Tuesday, Thursdays, even after the long run?
Usually, yeah, usually after the long run. And if I can't do it, I'll do it on a Sunday.
Because your Monday's easy anyway.
Even though the
Yeah.
Sunday's easy, but I'll still go in there. Yeah, kind of going against what I said. But I will,
Well, you're not
I'll
really
finish.
because you take Monday easy anyway. So it's still you're not you're not putting yourself in a position where you're doing weights and then a hard session the next day by doing it on Sunday.
Never. Yeah, no, I never do that. I used to do that all the time when I was just learning, and I'd show up and be like, man, why am I running so bad? And I was like, you just lifted like heavy squat yesterday, and it's like, oh yeah. But
Yeah.
yeah, that's usually it for me, my opinion.
Awesome. Moving on. Andrew WCZ75 asks, what would you do if you had to start from scratch in your late 30s or early 40s? That's a tough one.
Start from scratch, meaning like,
He's obviously just
or just add
become
some
interested in
response.
running. Where do you go? Where do you start from? There's plenty of ways you can do this. I think it depends on the personality type as well. Some people just love to research and plan their own training, and those people often think this is a little bit like you. It's certainly like me. In fact, it's definitely like you. We don't necessarily need a coach. And I think some people, there's a certain percentage of people that are like this. They love to understand, they love to test it themselves, and they almost are better off without a coach. It's good to have advisors and people, good sounding boards, around that they can speak to and get advice from. But I think a huge percentage of people would probably respond very well to just signing up to a coach that they have listened to, that they've watched, that they trust, and they follow their advice. But I think listening to your body is obviously really key in all aspects all the time, but especially when you're just getting started, for
Yeah.
sure. Yeah.
Yeah. And you know what I would tell this person as well? Find a good group. You don't need a coach, but I think a good group will help you a lot.
Yeah.
Whether that's Jesus, run clubs are fucking everywhere these days, so it shouldn't be hard. No matter where you are, if you're in the biggest city in the US or the back arse of nowhere, you're gonna find a run club. So um yeah, find a run club, find some good mates that are into running, that are knowledgeable, um, that can help you and they'll impart their knowledge. And that'll help you a lot, I think,
Mm,
too, for starting off. Yeah, you'll learn a lot there, and then that'll help you kick on, and then you'll take that knowledge and be, like you were saying, intellectually curious.
mm,
Intellectually curious people in any walk of life, it doesn't matter if it's sport or in their job or whatever, they'll always excel. Um, if you want to take real interest in something, Google it, ChatGPT it, whatever. Ask people questions, learn.
mm.
Certainly at the beginning stages, yeah.
Yeah. Good answer. I definitely would double down on that. If you're in a position where you can join a group and there's your timetable allows you to, you don't work odd hours and you can actually join a group that's close by, especially if obviously you know someone in the group. Just starting out, I think that's a great option. And like you said, the rise of running groups over the last, especially since COVID, is just enormous. And you don't necessarily need a coach. I think coaching's for people that have specific goals that might not be able to make a run club, or they might have outrun their run club. There's no one there that they can work with in terms of pace or whatnot. And there's a huge amount of people in that boat. But if you're just starting out and you don't really know what your goals are yet, and you just want to get involved, I think a run club is a great move. Yeah.
Sure.
All right, Greg Roel, last one, 91, before we transition over to the second half of the podcast, asks marathon nutrition for general week to week training, not carb loading or in race fueling. I was going to ask you more about this on the private podcast feed, but we might get a little bit down that path now. So, general week to week training for marathon nutrition. I'm more than happy to start here before you share your thoughts. But I feel like I learned a lot about this last year. And there's, I actually got very, very strict about it last year. I did what's called carb cycling. So I was actually also trying to shed a few pounds/kilos last year. So what I did in order to do, and I don't necessarily recommend everyone do that. I just felt like that was something that I needed to do in order to run faster, but that's certainly not the case with everybody. In fact, I would say most people, that's not a great idea. But I think across the board, you want to be making sure that all your macros are in a good place, protein, fats, carbs. But the most important thing by far is to be fueling massively before, especially long runs, but also midweek workouts as well. So you want to be making sure that those sort of 2 meals before, but definitely meal before the long run or the midweek workout or workouts, you're having a huge amount of carbohydrates. and ideally, for the 12 to 18 hours before. So you're also maybe sipping on a carb drink, or you're eating a bar, or it might be a carbohydrate bar, whatnot. And outside of that time, you want to be focusing on making sure you're getting loads of protein, loads of fats, loads of carbs. I can dive into the specifics of the carb cycling. I've done that plenty of times before, and I don't think I'll do it right now. But I think it's pretty basic. I think as long as you're fueling before the workouts and you're eating, pretty well otherwise, lots of protein after the workouts. I'll touch on it quickly though. If you are interested in sort of leaning up a little bit before a race, you can, when you're outside of the sort of window of 12 hours each side of the hard workout, you can really focus on having very high amounts of fiber and protein in your diet. You don't necessarily have to have huge amount of carbohydrates on the easy days. I wasn't doing that at all. I was having very low carb on the easy days, and I was just fine. And yeah, over a 3 month period, I think I lost 4.5 kilos, or over 10 pounds, by basically keeping carbs very low on the on the easy days, and on the hard days keeping the carbs very high. So yeah, anyway, that's the very simple answer that I have. Of course, that could be a whole podcast in itself, but what do you think, Luke?
I think you nailed it. Honestly, I think I did that for Osaka, the carb cycling thing. I think it helped a lot. And just making sure, like, to put a second point on it, just making sure that you are spending the day before and going to bed like fully satiated, like before your workouts, making sure you're not worrying at all about, yeah, I might have worried about, not worried, but being careful about what I'm eating, and not overdoing it, and making sure I'm clean and all this good stuff. But the day before, and certainly the night before, you just bury it, like bury it, like you just do. Not to the point where you're going to get sick or anything, but like you're just like, man, I feel good. I'm satiated here. I feel good. I feel full. I had good amount of carbs and protein. I feel great. And so you wake up feeling good, and just do it again before the workout. That's the main thing, right? And then the recovery, obviously, making sure you're doing that. Outside of that, outside of that, it's just be smart, you know? Be smart. Like, eat clean if you can. Like, I know it's hard, and it's a bit more expensive, but it's also not hard. Just like, just be smart. Eat your fruits and veg, like fruits and veg, as much as you can, as often as you can. Take your vitamins, get your protein in, like real protein. Don't just be smashing those stupid go one more protein shakes and whatever else. Like, eat. Like, I understand some people are vegetarians and vegans or whatever, but like, if you're not, like, eat your steaks, eat your salmon, eat your, like, and again, if you can, I know it's harder, but it's also not that hard. Like, cook for
It's
yourself.
mostly habit. Yeah.
Yeah, cook for yourself. Like, you can control all those things. It's so much easier. Um, the portion control, what you put in it, like all of it, it's just so much better. You do all those things and you create those habits, especially in your marathon build, you're just going to be so much better.
Hmm. Great answer. Well, that wraps up this week's first part of Training Talk. If you want to hear us talk all about the training weeks, we will do so in a moment. You can join over at sweatelite.co/shareholders. That link is in the description of the podcast. Thank you, everyone, for listening in. We will speak to you all next week, and I hope that you can join us over on the other podcast.